Okay, so here we are, good managers, looking at different things that need to happen, understanding that things need to change. And we are, well, most good managers are change leaders or change, agents, change agents. So these are the change agents, are the people that help your organization change, especially in ways that they need to survive or to gain competitive advantage. So, change forces lead to differences in form, quality, or condition of an organization over time. Right? We also have forces in the organization that are resistant to change. And when I was doing consulting for IBM, and as an independent consultant, we go into companies and try to help them change their software packages to a more advanced, sophisticated software package. And we would see a lot of resistance to those changes. And we're going to talk about those here in just a minute, I think. Yeah. So the first problem we have is self-interest. I remember going into one company in the PAL organization out in California, and we were trying to train these people how to use a new system. And one of the problems that we saw, well, one of the problems I had was I had a team leader who was really, really good with the old system. She was the guru, and so it was problematic. She had this resistance to change because she didn't want to lose that guru status. And there are other people who were already better than her at this new technology that we're introducing. So she started resisting change and started bad-mouthing it. It didn't matter, it was coming through. She couldn't really stop it, but we could see it was in her self-interest for it not to happen. And she actually quit, which was kind of sad because she was a good team leader. Sometimes people misunderstand what's going to happen, or they don't trust the changes that are going to happen. Some people think that the new technology will either make their job harder or replace them. And usually, in my experience, unless you're an accountant, it didn't replace you. We can usually get rid of about 80% of the accountants, but the other people, their jobs were usually solid. And then we have people who just have an intolerance for change. And this might happen because they've done something for a long time and they've felt like they've been doing a great job, and now you might come in and say, oh, here's a better way of doing it, and they might feel insulted, like, wait, what do you mean better? I've been doing great. How can you get better than great? So, or they want to focus on other things, and you're bringing in this change, and you're like, well, okay, now we're going to go lean now, because lean's the buzzword. And that will last for about a month, and during that month I'm going to lose momentum on this other project that I have. So these are the various ways we have to help people move through the change process. So some of the things that we do is unfreezing. And unfreezing is actually getting people affected by change to believe that it really, really is needed. And if we don't change, we're not going to win in the competitive war business. So helping them understand the need for change is huge. And then change intervention is where we're actually helping our employees understand the new behavior and work practices that they need to adopt to flow with whatever changes are coming through the system. And refreezing is where they understand the behavior and new work practices, and they're actually incorporating them, and they don't backslide. What's funny is there's a video about learning how to ride a bike, where instead of turning one way or the other, that's how we ride a bike. So I'm going to pull my left hand closer to me to turn left, or my right hand closer to me to turn right. In this video, they screwed up the gearing of the steering mechanism. So to turn left, you had to push your left hand out, further away from you. And for kids, it took very little time to learn how to ride a bike that way. They might have already known how to ride a bike, but the change to riding the bike this different way didn't take very long. For adults, it could take a day. And what was crazy is once you learned how to ride the bike the new way and you got on a regular bike, you'd fall over again. So it's actually, it would freeze your motor skills into a new pattern. And that's what we're talking about, is refreezing. Okay, so as managers, what do we do to help people change better? Well, one of the things we have to do is educate, and part of education is just communicating. Oops, that's not what I want to do. But communicating again and again until you're sick of communicating with your employees what's going on, how it's going to affect them. You might take a day in the life of your employees, what they do right now, and how that will be different with the new change, and highlight those differences, right? Communicate. Have those affected by change participate in the planning and the implementing of the change. Sometimes that's one of the things that we would do a lot. We would look at like a department that we're going to come in and implement a new system with, and we look at the leaders of the department, have them come in and be on our team, and they help plan the implementation, and they help train the new employees on it. That's one of the ways you can get through it. Sometimes you'll change responsibilities, right? And the employees need to figure out who's going to be responsible for what. The last thing you ever want to do, but sometimes you have to do it. But again, this is a test question. If all else fails, then we are coercive, right? Then we're forcing people into the change. This was a weird thing for me in the military because every order was coercive, right? If you disobeyed an order, you'd get in trouble. And so when I went into private practice and we're trying to change things, I just say, well, why don't you just tell them to do it? And they're like, no. We just tell them to do it, and they might quit, they might undermine us, or whatever they're going to do. And we don't want to lose good employees, so we educate them, we communicate with them, we unfreeze whatever they're doing right now and help them understand the need for change. And it's a lot better than the military style. Though people who are used to the military style might not agree with that. Okay, biggest mistakes. Not establishing a great enough sense of urgency, and that goes back to the unfreezing. Not creating a powerful enough coalition. In other words, I might know that this needs to happen for our business units to survive, but maybe my manager or his manager doesn't, or her manager, their manager. So upper management might not believe it. So part of this change is convincing my manager and their manager, as well as convincing my employees for the need of change. Sometimes we lack the vision. And this has happened to me, where I think, oh, this is a no-brainer. Of course people are going to get this, right? But we don't have the vision of the big picture vision. And if we don't have it, it's hard to communicate that with our employees or our managers, right? So when we say lack of vision, is we might understand in our gut something needs to change, or we might even know what needs to change, but how that influences the business as a whole, that vision, that's part of that process. Under communicating for sure, not removing obstacles to the new vision, and that might be with our customers or our suppliers. There might be a lot of different obstacles that we need to remove. Not systematically planning for and creating short-term wins before we're talking about milestones. That's important in any project, that we set milestones through the project, especially if the project is over a couple of years. Like, we might have a vision, we need to manufacture in China so we can sell in China. So our end vision is selling in China. So the vision is selling a lot in China. And GM, maybe you don't know this, but GM sells more cars in China now than they do in the United States. And they wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't manufacture in China first. If you want to sell in China, the easiest way to do that is provide jobs in China and get that relationship through manufacturing, and then it's easier to sell in China and get permissions to sell your products, right? So if we want to sell, okay, how do we get into China? Well, first maybe we source in China, and then after we develop some supply chain in China, then we move our manufacturing process into China, and after we get some manufacturing where we're still selling in the United States, then we turn that around and say, well, let's sell some in China as well as the United States. So every step, like there's probably 5 or 6 different milestones in that process. And every time we hit a milestone, we celebrate, right? Declaring victory too soon. There's a president who landed on a carrier declaring victory in Iraq. And that's why I think of declaring victory too soon. Don't do it. Not anchoring changes in corporate culture. And who's responsible for corporate culture? The CEO. So if you're making changes, it needs to be supported. You need to get that coalition, right? And you have maybe a culture within your own group too. All right. I'm not going to talk a lot about these. I think we're done. I think we'll be done now. So I hope you enjoyed Chapter 7. And good luck on the test.